Shenkman. I'm joined by my partner, Thomas Tietz, and by a brilliant, Merrick, do I call you an AI software developer? What do I call you? Oh,
Just
wait,
software developer's
wait.
fine.
Like Wizard of Oz, you're the guy behind the green curtain.
That's right. That's right. I pull the strings.
Pulls the strings. So what we're going to talk about is a really very practical application of how practitioners can use AI, whatever field they're in, estate planners, financial advisors, accountants, anybody in estate planning. It's a very practical application, and we're also going to, and especially with Merrick's help, going to talk about how AI has to really be trained and what that means if you're not familiar with it to really do this well. What's the relevance of a background check? Why is it so fundamentally important? Two main concepts, and there may be others, and I'm sure you'll think of others as well. And I don't believe very many people are doing this, and it's really powerful, costs basically nothing, and takes almost no time. So how can you say no? One, when a professional advisor has an issue with a client, especially an attorney, but I think it would apply to all advisors, it's not so simple to extricate yourself from representing somebody in the middle of representation. And it usually won't make the particular client very happy if halfway through a complex transaction you say, listen, I'm not doing this. The best opportunity for any advisor with the least friction, the least ethical issues, and the least blowback from a prospect or client is to terminate somebody before they actually formally become a client. And one of the best ways to do that, which is now readily available to all of us, at basically no cost and no time, is to get a background check. The only time is reviewing the output from the AI as to what the background is. We're going to explain how you do that. We're going to explain why, what you may do if you just are using your own version of AI, and worse, and you shouldn't be using a free version. And we'll explain that as well. So that's application number one, and we're going to talk about it and talk about the kinds of things it can identify, talk about how and why AI has to be trained, and we're going to, with Merrick's help, take a little peek behind the green curtain to see what really goes into this, because I don't think most people appreciate that. The second application, which applies to so much of estate planning, clients contemplating a major transfer, especially if the client is contemplating a transfer, they tell you for asset protection, not because they're worried about an estate tax. But it's a daily occurrence that clients take assets and put them into LLCs and other entities, trusts that own the LLCs, whether they're irrevocable or complete a gift, not complete a gift. The bottom line is when clients are making transfers, is that transfer a fraudulent conveyance? And one of the advantages that a claimant will have in the future is the benefit of hindsight. How can we show today that a client did not have an issue? Sorry, my dog keeps sitting on my cord. Forgive me. With the transfer, one of the best ways to do that is to have due diligence done. Now, it may be common to get a balance sheet of a client before they make a transfer. It may be common, and I don't think it's nearly enough common, to have a solvency affidavit signed by a client. Often that's only done when state law requires a solvency affidavit before funding a self-settled trust. But there's another component to whatever you are or are not doing in your practice, and that's getting a background check. If you can identify that a client has issues, you may choose not to complete the transfer, complete a lesser transfer, try to address those issues with the client. So that's a second application. And the third application, which I just thought of, and actually Alan Gassman, who may join us, has mentioned this. If you have a new prospective client coming for a meeting, if you can, I'm just telling everyone how wonderful you are, Alan. So just listen and smile and look intelligent. Before you meet with a client, you do a quick background check and you see some of their experience and their accolades. What a great way to start an introduction to a client and a conversation. So those are three, and I'm sure all of you will think of other applications. But what we're going to try to do for the approximately 45 minutes of this program is educate and inform you about how powerful this application of AI is and why the way many people may go about doing it is going to be suboptimal. Tom, did you want to start, and then we can kick it over to Merrick on some of the different approaches people can take? And I don't know if you have it in your thoughts, but why don't we start real quick with why should nobody ever, as a professional, be using a free version of AI? And Al and Merrick, just interrupt, because that's really an important starting point.
Yeah, no, that's very important, because we want to talk about the foundational aspect of how you approach doing these background checks. If you use a free AI, like, it's the thought of nothing in life is free. Why are they giving you access to this? It's because the way that AI works is it's a large language model. They need information to make the AI work. So if it's a free AI, they're taking your information and adding it to the model. If you're doing a background check, you need to provide it with confidential client information to make sure that it's doing it for the right person. Full legal name, their address, maybe a date of birth, possibly even a social security number. If you're doing that in a free AI, you're giving it all that information, which, especially for attorneys, is a violation of your ethical duty to protect client information. And another point is the Florida Bar has put out a very good guide about how to start using AI. And they said right in there that attorneys in Florida should not be using a free AI model. So when you're doing these background checks, avoid the free AIs. They're very dangerous to use in this situation. Any thoughts about free AIs, Alan, Merrick, before we move on?
No, I think you've nailed it. Good job.
So the next question, Tom, I got to get a subscription. So now I have a subscription, and we're going to do other segments where we talk about other applications of AI. We're sticking to just one because I feel anyhow, I don't know if Alan and Merrick feel that way, but I feel if we can stay focused on just background checks and we do another segment on a different topic, it'll be more informative than if we cover 100 different things at one time. Once you pick the AI that you're going to use and you have a subscription, so it's not sending your confidential client data to the cloud, which you don't, I don't care what profession you're in, you don't want to do that. Can I just I have a subscription to Copilot. Can I just put in John Smith and say, find me information? Is that going to get me there?
So one of my favorite statements when it comes to AI to consider is, and Merrick could probably speak to this better than me, but an axiom I've heard is garbage in, garbage out. You need to frame.
Tom, you're a young guy, man. That was like when we first started with computers first being invented long ago when Alan and I had dark hair. That was a common statement.
Well, there you go. It works for AI as well. The way that AI works is it takes the prompt that you give it, the question you ask it, and it looks through all of the information in that large language model. But how you ask that question will affect the quality of the response that you get. If you have your own subscription that has the protections that you need, you're now filling your ethical duty, but are you getting the quality of response that you really want? Now, some of us may be able to frame the question and then additional follow-up questions after that in a way that gets you sufficient information based upon what it's viewing. But there are models out there that are designed, that have already gone through the testing to figure out these questions that make the response better. So do you want to spend the time yourself to figure out the right questions to ask? Or do you want to rely on another subscription that may have spent the effort for it? A good point here is to consider document drafting software as it's used for creating a will, creating a revocable trust. If you have your own forms, you need to keep up with that form whenever there's changes. If you have document generation software, they will have people updating it for you. This is a similar situation here. There may be ways that AI is used that you can use it yourself and you don't need these prompts, but there are also companies that will help with the hard task of figuring out the best way to make these prompts. Alan, Merrick, want to expand on that?
I think you did a good job there. Whether you use a simple AI generator or a more specialized one, you can make sure you ask the questions that you want answered. For example, who is this person involved with? How have they been involved with various certain things? But having your own protocol or a protocol that somebody has carefully thought through is really important, because AI is like a brilliant kid in a big hurry. And you ask it, do these 12 things, and how many does it do? 9, 7, 8, 14, does them backwards. So somebody who has tamed this brilliant child and requires them to follow protocols and make sure you cover this, make sure you cover this, make sure you cover it, then it will be covered.
Let me give a simple example. When I ask AI questions, and I use AI every day for research and identifying things and all sorts of stuff, but I'm very judicious. I'm not taking a citation from AI and just popping it in somewhere. I recently tried to get the citation for the Roland case on portability, and it gave me a citation to a fictitious case and told me about all kinds of stuff that had nothing to do with portability. And when I tried to find the case it gave me to figure out what happened, it didn't exist. That stuff happens, and that's called a hallucination. I won't say anything about Alan at a rock concert, but that's not good. The effort that it takes to go in and tell AI what you want it to do is really significant. So I've already told Copilot, who we use, and we'll do another segment why specifically I like Copilot for me, but different topic. But I've told it that I'm a sophisticated estate planning attorney. Don't truncate, don't simplify, give me everything. And I had it memorize that thought or that point. So anything that it does, and yesterday I asked AI a question, and it said, don't worry, I'm giving you citations in text, and I know you're a sophisticated attorney. It's like it's having a conversation with me. But if you take that 10 times, 50 times, 100 times, that's what Merrick is developing, and he's using estate view as training, and that's the word that's used, the version of AI they use in order to do a more comprehensive background check. But it's not just comprehensive. Tom and I have spent hours on the phone with Merrick. He's stayed awake for most of those conversations. And Merrick has taken our suggestions and our input and feedback and modified their model even further. So it's not just about the questions that they've developed over, I don't know how long you're working on just the background check, 6 months, a year, but I'm sure there's hundreds and hundreds of I guess we call it people hours now, of effort into this. But then we had concerns with the output being more practical so you could analyze it as an advisor more quickly. America's gone back and revised that. Some of the duplication has been eliminated. One of the things as an estate planner, tell me up front, did this person like commit nefarious crimes? Are they in bankruptcy? So there's some red flags that it identifies right away. Because listen, if somebody is like in the process now of being sued for fraud or in bankruptcy, I don't know that I'm getting out of the starting block, or if I am, it's in a very different way with that client. I want to know that up front. So that's been identified. I don't think it's practical, and Alan and Merrick, you should comment on this. I don't think it's practical for almost any firm, unless you're a massive firm that's really committed to this, to try to replicate the effort that a software company like Estate View does to train the AI to do this.
Right.
Well,
We
unless,
definitely got
unless
an
it's a
early
hobby,
support.
unless it's a hobby, and then you want to spend a lot of time as a hobby, I agree with you.
That's called non-billable time, isn't it?
Called non-billable time. Exactly. Merrick, I'm sorry, I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
No, you're fine. I was just going to say, like you're saying, you could try to do what we're doing as a hobby, but we have got an early start to it, and we have updates to it every single day. We try to get the latest models, try to design as many prompts as we can, and get as much user experience as we can to just continue improving it every single day, to tailor it as best as we can and keep improving it every day.
And another comment, what Merrick is working on with background checks for Estate View is targeted to estate planners. There's other software, FP Alpha is an example, vanilla, they're not taking, at least as I see it, the same lens that an estate planner would take. They're really trying to help guide financial planners on quickly getting good advice to give to clients. It's a different lens, it's a different perspective than the practitioner who could be in the line of fire if something goes wrong. One of the things that we should talk about too, just to show the depth of what you've done, Merrick, let's say I run something through Copilot and I come up with a background check. Do I know that's really accurate? What have you guys developed? And this is a good point to understand why you got to be careful doing this on your own. How do you check what you get with the first analysis?
Right. So with our software, there's a few ways. To start with, we kind of we try to narrow down as much as possible who this person is. For example, earlier you said John Smith. If you just type, who is John Smith? Do they have any sort of criminal history? You're gonna get a bunch of garbage, but we try to give as many inputs as possible, like location, education, occupation. We try to really narrow down who the people are. And then once you get that background search, initially from whichever AI model you choose, you're then able to also fact check it with another AI. Let's say you use Google Gemini for your base search and it comes up, and then you can say, okay, let's have ChatGPT or Claude cross-check this. So you're getting as little hallucinations as possible. And we found that you really don't get any. So we have a system of double checking, narrowing it down, and getting the most accurate information as possible.
And we've also limited where the user is looking. We don't let it look at places that are not credible. We keep it to credible sources, and that's where a lot of the hallucinations, come in. So, and then the Wayback Machine, I think we should mention, because we can really verify that it's the right person, because it's looking not only now, but it's looking what was the internet 3 years ago, what was it 6 years ago, what was it 9 years ago, what was it 12 years ago, and it'll spot the inconsistencies and realize it's on the wrong person or it's mixing up the information. It's quite interesting, the process that it goes through.
Let me just emphasize what was just said, because I think this is really critical. Background checks, for the 3 different reasons that I suggested in the beginning, are really powerful and can really help protect the practitioner and really help protect a client, because a client may not be aware of some of the issues that could be floating out there. And if you bring those to the client's attention and proactively help them deal with it before you do asset protection transfers, you've really saved the client's bacon. And that's really critical. But how many of us before this conversation would have thought of, okay, I'm going to use AI number 1, and then after that have it checked, fact checked by a different AI, because each AI model is somewhat different. Alan and I never think of things the same way, right? I try to be very sequential. Alan tends to be, I won't say, but 2 lawyers are always going to look at something slightly differently. You're using 2 AI models, one to check the other, not only to eliminate errors like hallucinations, but also to see if something might have been missed. That's a really powerful application on top of having all the pre-programmed, if you will, questions to be asked. And all of that is in addition to the formatting, so it's a practical output that you can get through. Tell me what gets flagged so I can readily identify issues for a prospective client, and also maybe just talk about some of the output. And you mentioned Merrick buttons. Tell everybody what that is, because that's another powerful tool. It's not just me writing script into an AI Copilot dialog box, chat box. This is already pre-programmed, if you will. Why don't you explain some of what the buttons are and how they make it really efficient?
Yeah, so specifically for the background check, we do have a bunch of fields such as full name, location, occupation, as I said. And typically in a normal AI bot, you'd have to just type that all into one text box. And basically write a complete sentence, right? So I'm looking for a background check on Merrick DeBolt from Florida. He went to college at blah, blah, blah. But with our model, it's just like a form, basically, that you fill out. And
It's
yeah,
very
basically,
user-friendly, and it's an interface that's natural.
It also prevents the AI from dropping a detail.
Right.
It polarizes each. Do you want to just show screen? So, Marty, do you want to see the buttons? Would that be easier for the viewers?
Yeah, how do we do that? I'd have to transfer control to Merrick.
That's a dangerous thing to do by my experience.
I'm also not sure how to do it myself. This is my
You
first time
have it,
using
Merrick.
this.
You should be able to show your screen.
Perfect. All right, can you guys see?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, so these are the inputs for the background search. As you can see, you can choose if it's a person you're looking for or an entire company. We have full name, location, and it gives you an example here. If you want to type city or state or both, company, approximate age, you don't have to be exact, you can give a range, profession, education, historical info, and again, we give examples, so past addresses, previous employers, and like Alan said, we'll look through the Wayback Machine and be able to use that historical info.
Did you guys, I forgot, I'm sorry, did you define what a Wayback Machine is?
The Wayback Machine is essentially an internet archive. What it does is it takes snapshots of websites throughout history. So you can say, what did this website look like on May 4th, 2024? And if it has a snapshot, then you'll be able to go back and see what it was like at that point in time.
I was thinking of Back to the Future of Michael J. Fox, but I guess that's not correct.
More
Let's
like
explain why that's important for a background check, though. There are services out there that can scrub information from the internet. And if there's somebody that has an issue that they're concerned about, they may pay for one of those services. By incorporating the Wayback Machine, if there is a historical record of that issue, there's a chance the AI will pick up on it. And if it's a issue that was significant enough that this person scrubbed it from the internet, it's the kind of issue that you want to know about before you start representing them.
Right. And even if it wasn't scrubbed, you know, a newspaper article from 12 years ago just isn't on the internet anymore, but it was there 12 years ago, and the Wayback Machine will find that. Now, it's important to note you only have to fill out one of these lines. You don't have to give it all the information, but the more you give it, the more it may go ahead and find.
Alan, you kind of beat me to the punch on that. I was going to comment on that. So here's a couple of observations about background checks. This simple template, as opposed to me going into a Copilot chat and starting to create from scratch different things, an admin person can fill out. You can make this a routine part of your practice, and we have to talk about the ethics issues of this.
Yeah.
So that if you have a new prospective client, an admin person can be charged with, okay, any prospect after you get the initial information and schedule an appointment, you go in and get a background check. Now, what Ellen said is very important. When you have a prospect coming in, you may have limited information about them. You're going to know something because somebody chatted with them. You input that. If in fact they come in and now you're looking at doing, real transfers and you want to make sure there's no issues, you may have 5 times the amount of information to input into the AI model to find background information to make sure there's no issues. So you can do it again with more information. You don't need everything to do it. And again, the easy template makes it very practical for an admin to do. I don't know that this is in context in the right place, but I want to get it out there while we're talking about it. Tom, comment on the ethics issue and how we should approach this as practitioners to avoid some type of discrimination or other claim.
Thanks for the tee up, Marty. The point is there are ethics concerns with taking discriminatory actions when choosing to have a client, accepting a client. So you don't want to just do background checks for certain individuals. Create a
Short
policy.
people like me.
Yeah, there you go, Marty. You want to create a policy that states when you're going to do these background checks. If you're doing them before a prospect is coming in for a meeting, you should be doing it for all your prospects before they come in for a meeting. Have in writing when you're going to be doing it so that somebody can't come back and say, well, you did this background check on me. You don't usually do it. You chose not to accept me as a client because of this background check. That was discriminatory.
Right. Let me
By
also
the way, go on now.
mention before we forget, you can't use this for landlord tenant. If you're sizing up a tenant, you can't use this under the federal law. If you're looking to loan someone money, you can't use this. If you're looking to employ someone as a W-2 employee, you can't use this. You can use it, and you should use it on any new client, any old client who you're working with, and people who your clients are contracting with. I had a client that was about to spend $50,000 to get started on a project to do business with somebody else, and I found a bankruptcy fraud issue that did not come up on a detective report because it wasn't the client who was it wasn't this bad actor who had been in bankruptcy. Someone else had been in bankruptcy, and this bad actor had done something underhanded to try to cheat the bankruptcy court. And the AI came up with it. But again,
Not the kind of guy I'd want to do business with.
no, I saved the clients $50,000 and who knows what else. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that, though. Don't use it to size up tenants. Don't use it for to loan money. Don't use it for hiring of employees, or the Federal Trade Commission will come and swoop you up and take you somewhere.
Merrick, you had mentioned buttons before. Can you go to the input? Are you able to bring up the page that shows the different queries that we can ask?
Merrick, you could just put a name on there. I mean, you can just put a name in there. Put Marty Shenkman there in the name.
How about Alan Gassman?
State,
That stuff comes up on me. Now you scared me.
State New Jersey or something that. Okay, so then you click on Start Search.
This is a good illustration of how you can just use whatever data you have to get started.
Right. And we always, when I use it, I just check all the boxes. And then for each of these boxes I checked, now the computer has pages and pages of assignments, places it has to go and things it has to check in a particular order in order to run the search. And then he clicks on Run Selected Analysis.
Wait, don't click yet. Just take a look, everyone. These are the kind of different things that the AI has been trained and is constantly being updated to look for. So you really can't create this level of detail on your own unless your firm has made a commitment to create its own proprietary AI model.
Before we move on, one of the points I want to bring up there is the social media presence tab that's on this. I'm going to mention a fact about AI that lives in my brain and just can't get rid of it. About 12% of all information that AI pulls from is from a website called Reddit. For those that don't know what that is, that's basically a social media website where anybody can post whatever they want. In most situations where you use AI, that would be a bad thing because anybody can make it up. But counterintuitively, for a background search, it's actually good that it's getting information from websites like that, because what if you have a public figure and there are people talking about them? The kinds of reputation discussion that goes on social media websites is important to understand before you take one of these clients on. So this is the kind of thing that having the AI and having it trained in this manner helps you to get your arms around what's going on with this particular prospect or client before you do anything with them.
If anyone's interested in having Tom join you at your holiday party to speak about other esoteric and inane social media factoids, I'm his agent and I only charge him a 20% commission, so please call me. Eric, it's yours.
Let me just break in. The AI is not able to search all courthouse records. It's not able to get into the property appraiser websites very often. So while you see certain categories there, it is not the same search as you can get from a detective agency or from a LexisNexis search. If you want to be thorough, you'll do both, but the AI is pretty fast and very inexpensive to provide you with what's out there and available in this way. But you want Merrick to hit the button now?
Yeah, and then explain the buttons on the right, the tools and what's available.
So these are also just options that were shown in the checklist. They might have slightly different names, but as you see right now, this has like a little loading animation since it's starting the search and doing it. And that was pretty quick.
So now it's saying, is this the right Marty Shenkman? And it's asking for you to say yes, continue the analysis, or no, it's not the right guy. But this is clearly the right guy. So now he just clicks on the yes, continue analysis. And
you can read through the basic profile summary and see, are the awards the same, the affiliations, website. And this is right here is the media coverage summary. Now that we've confirmed that this is the right Martin Shenkman. And we have an analysis of what he's done.
Let me know when I can stop being nervous.
That's the only search I'm doing, so you're fine. We have a timeline.
By the way, let me interject. Earlier, I said that a third use of AI background checks is a prospective clients coming in. You want to have an idea who they are and hear a little more about them so you can go into the meeting and be flattering and complimentary and show that you're aware of who they are. What did this take, Merrick? 10 seconds, 2 seconds? And he's got a great summary of information about a prospective client. So you go into the meeting and sound like you looked into this person. I mean, what a great start to a relationship.
right.
Absolutely. We actually do right here have a professional license button. We can get all their certifications and licensing.
Mary, can you just scroll down for a second? Because there's one portion there that I just want to mention, and it was about tone. It actually analyzes the general tone of how that person is discussed on the internet. So this goes back to reputational discussion again. If there is significant negative discussion of an individual on the internet, that should be something you should take into consideration on whether you're going to take them in as a client or if you're going to do any sort of significant transfers with that individual.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So let me just talk. Let's talk through the buttons. Across the top, you can choose ChatGPT, which is by OpenAI, Claude, or Gemini. They're all really good, by the way. And then you can pick fast, which is going to be faster but a little bit superficial, or pro, which is what we recommend. And then, of course, once you've done this, you can print the discussion, you can copy the discussion, you can download the discussion. And if you're using Estate View, you should, because this is not saved, and this information that you're seeing here does not come to Estate View. This is on your computer. This is between you and your computer. So you have to save it. But then down the bottom, after this analysis, he can click on Review with Other AI, or give me a simplified response, or regenerate and do this again. So now go ahead and click on Review AI. And now he can choose Claude, which is very thorough, or Gemini if this was done in ChatGPT. So then he can click on Get Review. And now it's going to do a whole new background search on the other AI and review the search above and tell you what's wrong. And we have not seen a hallucination survive one of these double checks.
Think about
And
the
I don't
time
think
and
that's
effort that it would take for you to do this kind of modeling and prompting on your own.
I think more important than that, let me interject, more important than that, are you going to even think of doing this on your own? That's the benefit of having a product with a template, because I wouldn't have thought of having a second AI check. Golly, I used Copilot. Why isn't that good enough? But the idea of bam, and you have a second AI check it, and it eliminates, even if it's not too many times, those hallucinations or errors. That's really powerful. And just to follow up quickly on what Alan said, when we've used this as background checks for new clients, we've saved it as a Word document in their background folder in their file, so we can always go back and access it. So we just had a new real estate developer client come in. We found absolutely nothing negative, and I was concerned because there's planning that's going to be done. But it also gave me some fascinating background on the history of the company, the extent of their properties, the type of properties they had. I went into the initial meeting with this large real estate developer having a better understanding than I think I've ever had of another client before I started to do this. So it's a really powerful tool just to get your head around a client. And it's very comforting to see, my gosh, I got a 20-page report and there's nothing wrong in here.
Yeah. Merrick, do we need to ask it again? Did it go to sleep? Oh, there it
Got
goes.
bored with me, Alan.
I'll try another AI.
Unlike Tom, nobody's inviting me to their cocktail party because I have interesting thoughts.
Now you can have a lot of fun with this too, and do, for example, under ask a question at the bottom when it's no longer working. You can say, prepare a CV for Marty Shenkman, or prepare a poem in the tone of Ogden Nash reviewing Marty Shenkman's history, and mention the Beatles 16 times in that poem, and also the words of the Star-Spangled Banner every fourth sentence. And it will do that.
It sounds to me like the AI would be more fun to have at the party than even I would be.
Yeah.
Probably, Tom.
Exactly. Well, Merrick, it seems to be.
By the way, I stopped maintaining a CV many years ago. It just wasn't worth the bother, and I don't really care at this point. I'm more interested in trying to help get young professionals writing and mentor them than I am about what I do. But Alan had to prepare a CV. You don't have to do it now. And it was very accurate. It was pretty complete. It was very interesting. So if I ever needed a CV for expert witness work or something like that, instead of going back and trying to painstakingly reconstruct something, push a button.
Right. Well, Merrick, I think you need to reboot or something, right?
I think it's having
one of the
issues.
points, if you want, Merrick, you could even cut off the screen. We don't have too much time left. One of the points that I think I'd like you to comment on, Merrick, Alan, or both of you, what kind of summary can you get out of this so I don't have to read 20 pages before can you flag, like, Alan mentioned a client that had some negative involvement with a bankruptcy matter. Is there a way to flag those issues so I see those right away?
Sure, you could just put in the question panel at the bottom, please only show us the negative items. There is a button for negative items only, Marty. As you know, we put that in there at your request, which was a great idea. But this is pretty smart AI. So you can ask it to tailor the report any way you like. It also writes a great recommendation letter. If you say write a letter about Tom Tietz recommending him for the Estate Planning Hall of Fame, it'll write a robust letter of all the reasons that Tom should get into the Estate Planning Hall of Fame. And it's
other applications of AI background checks. Let me just highlight something Alan said. So Tom, Merrick, and I have spent hours on the Zoom meetings going through the application of background checks. So when we spoke to Merrick, one of the concerns we had is, listen, I want to know up front if somebody's done some really nefarious stuff, because I don't want to miss that in the length of the report, and I want to know before I get too deep in this if there's a real major problem. And I'm thinking, and I don't even know if AI background checks existed then, but a few years ago, I had somebody call me that wanted to hire me, and they told me that they had just sold their business for several $100 million. I looked up the website, and it was like one of these, like, it felt like a fake website that someone had just patched together with some high school kid helping them just so they could say they had a website for the company. Nothing felt right. And when I asked this person about the name of the attorney that represented them, he couldn't remember. You're telling me you sold your business for hundreds of millions of dollars and don't remember the law firm that you had represent you? It just got worse and worse and worse. But with this type of background check, I could have really confirmed right away whether there were issues. And that's very powerful. And when we speak to Merrick and we give him an idea, it's not just us. There's hundreds, thousands of people, practitioners, that may email or call in or discuss with Merrick, Allen, or the rest of their team an idea. It's just like when Tom gave the analogy about drafting software. We use interactive legal. Well, I know there's thousands of people around the country that use it. If somebody catches a mistake, we've caught mistakes, we email them, or if we're really upset, we get on the phone and say, hey, you guys got to fix this. Look what happened. And they do. That's why I think the technology, it doesn't make sense for a firm that's focused on servicing clients to try to replicate this or drafting software unless you're a really big firm and can commit the resources to it. And I don't even know if that's practical as this stuff gets more and more sophisticated. And I would worry that if you have only a firm with 50 estate planners, which is probably more than the vast majority of firms may ever have, how can you replicate thousands of people that are calling in with suggestions, comments, or thoughts? You can't.
Exactly.
So we should kind of wrap up. Alan, why don't you make any comments about the use of background checks and how powerful it is, and we'll let everyone else make a
I
comment.
think you did a great job,
Just-
Marty. I
Just
think
really
you
quick. Sorry, I wanted to just go over that the review did come in. It was just taking a while because we were using the thorough version of Claude. But
Nothing
if you
bad, I
go
hope.
through it-
No,
No,
if
don't
you
anything
look
bad.
at it, it's criticizing how Gemini characterized certain things, and it didn't disclose certain things. It's really, it's the high school English teacher from hell. It's
It's getting a second view on it. It's like handing a document to another attorney and saying, hey, can you criticize this and tell me what your thoughts are?
right.
We're going to show that in a future webinar, and we're going to show document reviews because that's really interesting. But we want to stay one topic per webinar so it's really informative. Tom, why don't you try to summarize what we've done and wrap up?
So just the final point that I want to make is these AI background searches are a great way to get started and to have a general overview. It gives you a pulse for that client and what is about them online. And one of the points that I want to make in closing is Alan kind of touched on this a little bit, but it lets you see where you need to delve down deeper. So this may not be able to access the legal records or current litigation concerns, but it might see that there's something out there that lets you know, hey, maybe I need to go and do a proper judgment and lien search on this individual, especially if I'm going to start doing some significant transfers with them. So it lets you see and understand what's out there as a possibility, and that's a very powerful tool to have.
So we talked about 3 applications of background checks. First of all, it's next to no cost, because if you buy a service that does it, it does lots of other things. So the incremental cost is basically 0. The incremental time, you saw how fast Merrick was doing this, it really didn't take much time. Other than the time you may spend to comb through it and read it. But as Alan said, you could say to AI, now that you've done this detailed pro-level search, highlight any of the negatives that I should be worried about, and it'll do that for you. So finding out if you should accept a prospect as a client, no matter your profession, is really important. If somebody's got really bad stuff, you want to think about it beforehand, because if you don't take them as a client, you have no obligations, you can simply not take them. Second, in an addendum to that, as Tom explained, from an ethics perspective, you want to do these searches on everybody that comes in the door so nobody can say you've been discriminatory. Second, you can use a background check before a client undertakes any transfers that could be argued to be a fraudulent conveyance. There's some pretty detailed background information to help show that you made a good faith effort before a client makes transfers to identify issues. And third, and this was Alan's idea, I hadn't thought of it, before you go into a meeting with a client, wow, get a summary of their background so you can go in and sound like you care about them and know about them.
Yeah, I didn't know you were a high school soccer player. My son is too. I mean, that's just great. People love to know about themselves.
I'll tell you off air about what I did in high school, Alan. Not now. But at any rate, I think just adding background checks to your practice is an incredibly beneficial, powerful, no cost, almost no time effort. A lot of it can be delegated to admin personnel, so it doesn't interfere with the professional's time. I think whether you're doing this as an attorney, accountant, wealth advisor, really doesn't matter. You really kind of want to use this stuff. And hopefully Alan and Merrick will join us, and we will do further programs about other specific applications, and we're going to try to keep it very practical. I think you should also now understand why, if you were using a free AI, get rid of it. You got to buy a subscription. Secondly, you need software to do this kind of stuff. You can't train it. It's not worth the time on your own, but it's really powerful. Any last words of wisdom, Merrick?
No, thanks so much, Tom, Marty. You're fantastic.
Thank you. And Merrick is the brains behind all this. Alan looks good, but we know who's doing everything.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Hopefully this was practical, and we'll be back.
Right. Take care.
Take care.